Good evening.
Just give 2 minutes. It's just, yes, now the meeting is streaming live. So we can start the meeting.
Okay. Good evening. Let me begin by wishing all of you a very happy new year. And on behalf of INTACH Chennai chapter, the Indian National Trust for Art and Cultural Heritage, we're very delighted to hold our first program for the year. Welcome to all of you. The past year has been unusual to say the least. And through the pandemic and lockdown, we, like everyone else, have been struggling to find a sense of rhythm. The silver lining, however, has been these online platforms that has helped us stay connected. And by the end of the year 2020, we had conducted 23 programs. We usually aim for about one a month, and we realized that through lockdown, we were sort of getting a better score than that. We've all heard the story of perseverance of Robert Bruce and the spider. Today, we share a documentary on a different Robert Bruce Foote, who symbolizes perseverance and relentless pursuit of his goal. On account of his enormous effort and hard work, Robert Bruce Foote, the geologist who unearthed India's prehistory, earned the title the father of Indian prehistory. He was not an archaeologist by profession, but Foote managed to discover over 4,000 prehistoric Paleolithic artifacts, traveling across India. This included the famous first Paleolithic tool found in our very backyard in Pallavaram. Multi-talented Robert Bruce Foote was in fact a geologist, ethnographer, paleontologist, museologist, archaeologist, and artist all rolled into one. And he painstakingly recorded his prehistoric findings for the future. We are delighted that Ramesh Yanthra, who was inspired to make the documentary film on Robert Bruce Foote, is here today and will speak on Bruce Foote and his contribution in revealing India's prehistory and geology. I have pleasure in introducing Ramesh Yantra, artist and filmmaker. Ramesh Yantra is a visual artist who attended the College of Fine Arts and obtained a Master's of Fine Arts degree in 1999 from India's oldest fine art institute, College of Fine Arts, Chennai. He's a filmmaker who worked as an art director in a few films in the Tamil film industry and made tableau designs for La Reunion's Diwali festival in 2005. His concepts and projects stem from various assorted sources and cultures, which lead him to investigate a vast range of themes in the area of prehistory, ethnography, study, social and cultural developments. Some of the documentary films made by him are The Gudiyam Caves, the documentary selected for the Cannes Film Festival in 2015. The documentary made on the Danish fort in 2016. A biopic film about Dr. Sita Raman titled The Truth in 2018. And The Father of Indian Prehistory, the documentary which we are going to watch right now, is one of his highlights. We welcome Mr. Ramesh Yantra and Mr. Sridharan archaeologist who will present his observations after the film. I request Mr. Ramesh Yantra to tell us a little about the film before the screening. Over to Mr. Ramesh.
Good evening to all. Firstly, thanks to INTACH Chennai chapter and those organizers. And about this film, as Madam told us, I was a student from College of Fine Arts, and after finishing my studies, I used to uh, for a traveler as a traveler. I went to Kudiyam Caves, and there I found interesting factors. And from those documentary, I came to know about Robert Bruce Foote, who is first recorded these details about Kudiyam case in Geological Survey of India. So after that, I have explored his contribution, and I got impressed with his dedication because he's a basically geologist, but he started collecting our prehistoric artifacts starting from Stone Age to Iron Age in his personal interest. It's not paid job for him. So later on, I got impressed from his last will. In those will, he wrote the uh, point that all the blanking, all the cottages, horses, and everything he dedicated to his family. And within bracket, he says that except my artifacts and collected from India, that is belongs to the particular country that towards India. So I got very impressed with his dedication, and till the death, he was lived in India. So after Kudiyam case, I started this documentary. I did 2 years research and conducting interview from respective scholars. So finally, I came up with a 24 minutes documentary. So we'll watch this documentary. After the screening, we will have an interaction session if you have any questions. Thank you so much.
My name is Jonathan Foote. I am the great-grandson of Robert Bruce Foote of the Geological Survey of India, and I feel very honoured by the interest of Indian people in his life and work. I have been aware of Shanti Papu's research for many years, and it is an additional honour to be able to see my great-grandfather's life through the medium of Ramesh Yanthra's work. Both Shanti Papu's writings and Ramesh Yanthra's film have been most informative and interesting to me. One of my treasured possessions is this memento of my great-grandfather's service in the Geological Survey of India. It shows a geological hammer supported by 4 chisels. The inscription reads, "This effigy of the most ancient and the most recent implements of the geologist is presented by the Geological Survey of India to R. Bruce Foote, Esquire, FGS, the most senior and distinguished authority on both aspects of Indian geology, on the completion of 50 years' work in India, September the 27th, 1908.
Since independence, the prehistory of India has taken long strides with sincere efforts exposed by the Indian scholars. However, the key to greater achievement is the role played with dedication by Robert Bruce Foote, father of Indian prehistory.
இந்தியா முழுவதையும் ஜியோலாஜிக்கல் சர்வே ஆஃப் இந்தியா மேப் செய்ய வேண்டும். புவியியல் வரைபடம் தயாரிக்க வேண்டும். எந்தெந்த பகுதியில் எந்தெந்த பாறை உள்ளது, எந்தெந்த பாறையில் எந்தெந்த கனிமங்கள் உள்ளன, எந்தெந்த கனிமங்களை வெட்டி எடுக்க முடியும், எதன் மூலம் பொருளாதாரத்தை உயர்த்த முடியும் போன்ற பணிகளை எல்லாம் உள்ளடக்கியதுதான் மேப்பிங். ஆக தென்னிந்தியாவின் பக்கம் 4 பேர் வந்தார்கள். அதில் ஒருவர் நம்முடைய ராபர்ட் ப்ரூஸ் ஃபுட் அவர்கள்.
Robert Bruce Foote was born 22nd September 1834 in Cheltenham, England. Geologist, archaeologist, ethnologist, paleontologist, museologist, and artist. Much of his work was confined to Madras Presidency.
GSA ஆரம்பித்ததன் முக்கிய நோக்கமே நிலக்கரி படிவுகள் கண்டுபிடிப்பதற்காகத்தான். அப்பொழுது GSAயில் சேருவதற்கு நிறைய அச்சம் இருந்தது. ஜங்கல் ஃபீவர் எனப்படுகின்ற விஷக்காய்ச்சலுக்கு பயந்து கொண்டு யாரும் காட்டுப்பகுதிகளில் சென்று ஜியாலஜி பற்றிய ஆய்வுகளை நடத்த முடியாத ஒரு நிலை இருந்தது. இதையெல்லாம் மீறி ராபர்ட் ப்ரூஸ் ஃபுட் அவர்கள் 7 ஆண்டுகளுக்கு பிறகு சேர்ந்தார்.
Robert Bruce Foote joined the Geological Survey of India in September 1858 at the age of 24 and contributed his research work on geology for 33 years. His paper on the Darwar system, the chief auriferous rock series of South India, is an important landmark in Indian geology. Besides his monumental work on the crystalline rocks of peninsular India, his remarkable contribution on Pleistocene paleobotany and stratigraphy were parallelly drawn significant. Bruce Foote of the Geological Survey of India discovered a Paleolithic Cleaver from the debris of a pit dug in the lateritic gravel of Pallavaram near Madras on the 13th of May 1863.
Tool discovered by him was made of quartzite. We can say the semi-hard stone. That is not so hard, but it's semi-hard, which the early people could cut it with another stone because no metal was available. They could make it into tool with another tool only. Probably they got some other pebble or something which they used to cut this and make it into a tool. But this discovery was taken as one of the turning point in Indian archaeology.
And from then onwards, his whole life turned into archaeological investigation.
பள்ளத்தில் கிடைச்ச ஒரு கல் கோடாரி அவருடைய வாழ்க்கையை மாற்றுச்சு. அவருடைய வாழ்க்கையை மட்டும் மாற்றலை, உலக நாகரிகத்துடைய வரலாற்றுடைய அந்த காலநிலையே மக்களுக்கு சொல்லி கொடுத்தது. அவர் எடுத்த அந்த கல் கோடாரி மிக மிக தொல் பழங்கற்காலத்தில் மனிதர்கள் பயன்படுத்திய ஒரு கல் கோடாரி. அந்த கல் கோடாரி அவரை அடுத்த 42 வருஷம் இந்த இந்தியா முழுக்க அலைய வச்சது.
சில காலம் அரியலூர் பகுதியில் பணியாற்றி இருக்கிறார். அங்கே உள்ள ஃபாசில்ஸ், தமிழிலே தொல்லுயிர் எச்சங்கள் என்று சொல்லலாம், அந்த ஃபாசில்ஸை பற்றியும் சற்று கற்றுக்கொண்டார். கர்நாடகத்தின் கிழக்கு பகுதி, ஆந்திர கரையோரம் உள்ள கிழக்கு மேற்தொடர் எல்லாமே அடங்கும். வில்லியம் கிங், ப்ரூஸ் ஃபுட் இவர்களுடன் இணைந்து கிட்டத்தட்ட 53,000 சதுர கிலோமீட்டர்கள் மேப் செய்திருக்கிறார்கள். மிகப்பெரிய சாதனை.
Identical artifacts were discovered by him and William King, his colleague in the Geological Survey of India, in large numbers in the valleys of Kotralaya and Narnavaram in Madras state, followed by other findings from the Godavari and the Narmada in the upper peninsular region.
கிடைச்ச அந்த கல் கோடாரிகளை வச்சு அவங்க இந்த இடத்துக்கு பேரே வச்சாங்க. இந்த மெட்ராஸ் ஸ்டோன் ஆக்ஸ் ஃபேக்டரின்னு பேர் வச்சாங்க.
In 1866, Bruce Foote's hand axes from the laterite gravel of Pallavaram and Athirampakam established the existence of Pleistocene man in India. Also, he brought light to the problem of the hiatus between the formation containing Paleolithic and Neolithic artifacts in South India.
Besides this, in Tamil Nadu also, near Gudiyam in Tiruvallur district, he has found a prehistoric cave where a number of archaeological implements have been discovered. This is also one of the major contributions by Bruce Foote. During course of his geological study, he had found the underground cave at Kurnool district, which is called as in the Belem area, and it measures about 2.2 kilometers long. This is the second longest cave in India.
Also, he made extensive studies of the geological distribution of Paleolithic and Neolithic sites and on tools, techniques, and typological classification.
ஒரு முறை பல்லாவரம் மலைப்பகுதியிலே பணி செய்து கொண்டிருந்த பொழுது அங்கே இருந்த ஒரு கிணற்றிலே கிடைத்த களிமண்களை எடுத்து சோதனை செய்து பார்த்துவிட்டு இது கடல் களிமண் என்று முடிவு கட்டி அந்த காலத்திலே வங்காள விரிகுடா கடலானது பல்லாவரம் மலைகளின் கிழக்கு சரிவினை தொட்டுக் கொண்டிருந்தன என்று கருதுகிறார். புவியியல் மட்டுமல்லாமல் பேலியோ ஜியோகிராபி என்று அழைக்கப்படுகின்ற அந்த கால பூகோளம் பற்றியும் பல விதங்களில் புரூஸ் ஃபுட் அவர்கள் விளக்கி இருக்கிறார்கள். இவையெல்லாம் 1873 ஆண்டு வெளியிட்ட நினைவேடுகளில் பதிவாகியுள்ளன. புரூஸ் ஃபுட் கண்டுபிடித்த கோணை படிவங்கள் எங்களுடைய சென்னை அலுவலகம் ஆய்வு செய்து கொண்டிருக்கிறது. சாதாரணமாக தென்னார்காடு மாவட்டத்திலே பெருமாள் ஏரி என்று ஒரு ஏரி இருக்கிறது. அந்த பகுதியில் பணி செய்து கொண்டிருந்த போது அந்த ஏரியின் தென்கரையிலே கிளிஞ்சல்களை கண்டார்கள். வில்லியம் கிங் அவர்களும் புரூஸ் ஃபுட் அவர்களும் அந்த கிளிஞ்சல்களை பொறுக்கையிட்டு கொண்டு வந்து ஆய்வு செய்த போது அவை நல்ல நீரில் உள்ளவை அல்ல, கடல் நீரில் வாழ்வது என்று தெரிய வந்தது. இன்றைக்கு கடல் அந்த பகுதியில் இருந்து கிட்டத்தட்ட 10 கிலோமீட்டர் கிழக்கே இருக்கிறது. சில 1000 ஆண்டுகளுக்கு முன்பு வங்காள விரிகுடா என்பது தற்போது இருப்பதை விட 10 கிலோமீட்டர் உள்தள்ளி இருந்திருக்கிறது என்பது புரிய வந்தது. எப்போது கடல் பின்னே சென்றது, எந்த நகரத்தில் சென்றது என்ற போன்ற ஆய்வுகள் தொடர்ந்து மேற்கொள்ளப்பட்டன. உதாரணமாக தேவாரத்திலும் திருவாசகத்திலும் திவ்ய பிரபலத்திலும் மயிலாப்பூர் கோயிலும் பாதசாரதி கோயிலும் கடற்கரையில் இருந்ததாக நமக்கு செய்திகள் கிடைக்கின்றன. அதற்கு பிறகு கடல் மெல்ல மெல்ல பின்வாங்கி சென்று கொண்டிருக்கிறது. பெசன்ட் நகர், அடையாறு, சேப்பாக்கம், அது தெற்கே திருவல்லிக்கேணி, சுற்றி இருக்கிற தேனாம்பட்டை போன்ற எல்லா பகுதிகளுமே ஒரு காலத்தில் கடலின் கீழ் இருந்தன என்பதை உணர்த்தியவர் ராபர்ட் புரூஸ் ஃபுட் அவர்கள் தான். கிழக்கு சென்னை என்பது வங்கக்கடல் நமக்கு கொடுத்த கொடை என்று புரூஸ் ஃபுட் அவர்கள் மிக அழகா சொல்லியிருப்பார்கள். கடல் பின்னே வாங்க அந்த பகுதி வெளிப்பட்டு தற்போது கிழக்கு சென்னை நகரமாக மாறி இருக்கிறது என்பது புரூஸ் ஃபுட் அவர்களின் கருத்து.
After retirement, He served the princely state of Baroda and Mysore as senior geologist and as director of the geological department respectively.
தன்னுடைய புவியியல் பணியை அவர் திருச்சிராப்பள்ளியிலே சுண்ணாம்பு கற்கடிவங்கள், ஆங்கிலத்தில் லைம்ஸ்டோன் டெபாசிட் என்று சொல்வோம், சேலம் பகுதியிலே மேக்னசைட் எனப்படுகின்ற தாது கண்டுபிடித்தார். கஞ்சமலை பகுதியிலே மேக்னடைட் தாதுவை கண்டுபிடித்தார்.
He discovered in all 459 sites, 42 of which belonged to the Paleolithic, 252 to the Neolithic, 17 to the early Iron Age.
தன் பணிக்காலத்திலே அவர் கண்டுபிடித்த திருச்சிராப்பள்ளிக்கு அருகே உள்ள படிக சுண்ணாம்பு கற்கள், கிறிஸ்டலைன் லைம்ஸ்டோன் என்பார்கள், அவை இன்றைக்கும் வெட்டி எடுக்கப்பட்டு பல சிமெண்ட் ஆலைகளுக்கு கச்சா பொருளாக பயன்படுத்தப்படுகிறது. கஞ்சமலையில் மேற்கொள்ளப்பட்ட துறப்பண பணிகள் மூலம் பல மில்லியன் டன் இரும்புத்தாது கஞ்சமலையிலும் கோடுமலை ஏரியாவிலும் இருப்பது கண்டுபிடிக்கப்பட்டுள்ளது. அவர் கண்டுபிடித்த குரோமைட் படிவங்களில் பிளாட்டினம் குரூப் ஆஃப் எலமெண்ட்ஸ் உள்ளது என்பது அண்மை காலத்தில் அறியப்பட்டு, அவர் எந்தெந்த பகுதிகளெல்லாம் குரோமைட் காட்டியுள்ளாரோ அங்கெல்லாம் இன்றைய தினத்தில் எங்களுடைய ஜியாலஜிக்கல் சர்வே ஆஃப் இந்தியா துறையானது துறப்பணிப்பணிகளை மேற்கொண்டு பிளாட்டினம் மினரல்களாக ஆய்வினை செய்து கொண்டிருக்கிறது.
With the discovery of Paleolithic implements near Madras in 1863, Mr. Foote became the pioneer of this branch of research in India, one in which he was later a recognized authority. During his long connection with the Geological Survey, the ordinary routine of work entailed prolonged tours over a considerable part of South India, and much of his leisure time was occupied in collecting all available material, which tended to throw light on the habits and cultures of prehistoric man.
All his collections were systematically catalogued by Bruce Foote, and he brought out a beautiful catalogue, and the same was published by the Commissioner of Madras Museum.
An extensive collection was thus accumulated. The entire collection was purchased by the Madras government in 1904. A special room was built for its reception in the Art and Ethnological section of the Madras Museum. At the same time, it was arranged that a descriptive catalogue of the collection should be prepared for publication by Mr. Foote. By the end of 1908, the specimens had been numbered and arranged.
Almost about 4,000 and odd artifacts, tools, and of various categories. And the catalogue, one can see that he had made a very detailed descriptions of those articles, and also from which rock type he has collected, the place of collection, how it was acquired, and various details has been systematically recorded, giving the details of the place where it has been collected, the size, shape, color, and the rock type. Being a geologist, he was able to bring out exact nature of the rock from which the implements have been made.
He has done the drawings as if he's doing a portrait. Every single detail is so precise, his drawing is perfect, and then the dimension that he gives with light and shade is amazing. You can see the landscape stretching out behind those rocks for miles. There are small mounds, bushes, and many rocks strewn out there. And then at the horizon, you can see the Western Ghats. So mathematically precise, so superbly done. I've seen photographs of Godumalai, and then I realized he has fantastic observation. Probably that observation is what led him to archaeology from geology. He was able to see something different in those areas. And when you see Kanjamalai, the range that he has drawn is about, say, 30 kilometers away from the range he has been sitting on, probably on top of a house or something. And the details that he is showing are so amazing. From that distance, you can't see those details. Probably he went close by and then noticed some details which were not evident when he was actually making the drawing, but he remembered them and incorporated them. That is high level of art and science put together. Yelavasanur area rock formation that he has drawn, a vertical rock supported by two small rocks at the bottom. One he has done from the west and the other he has done from the north. The beauty of that drawing is he has shown some other elements like human beings, animals, to show the scale of his subject matter. That technique is used by highly trained artists. In his Kanyakumari drawing, he has used a grey paper with charcoal drawing and white pencil drawing. The highlights are picked up by white pencil. He has gone into the sea. He is sitting on probably a rock, and you can see the waves coming onto the beach. The movement of the waves is so clear, and the rocks are recognizable. On the left, you see some rocks in the distance. Probably those rocks are the ones on which Vivekananda Memorial and Thiruvallur statue are built. And then you see the beach, the shore area, seashore. And you see some buildings and some trees and things like that. Suddenly you start looking at the details and you can see the Kanyakumari temple as if it's been done by an architect. Even the lines have been, probably he counted them and drew them. In that drawing, he shows a couple of boards to show the scale of the area that he has covered, the sizes of the objects that he is showing. A doctor who is also an artist will be a better doctor. Likewise, he was an artist, so he was a better geologist and a better archaeologist.
இன்றைய பாலாற்றின் கரையை பார்த்தோம் என்றால் ஒரு டெல்டா என்பதை உருவாகவில்லை. காவிரி ஆற்றின் கரையில பார்ப்பீர்கள், பெரிய முக்கோணம் போன்ற அளவிலே அது கடற்கரைகள் எல்லாம் ஓடி பெரிய டெல்டா உருவாகி இருக்கும். அதே போல தென்பெண்ணை ஆற்றின் கரையில பார்த்தோம் என்றால் மிகப்பெரிய டெல்டா உருவாகி இருக்கும். ஆனால் பாலாறு கடலில் கலக்கின்ற சதராஸ் அல்ல சதுரங்கப்பட்டினம் என்ற இடத்திலே டெல்டா உருவாகவில்லை. இதை கவனித்த ராபர்ட் ப்ரூஸ் ஃபுட் அவர்கள் தொடர்ந்து சென்னை பகுதியில் பணி செய்த போது இங்கே அடையாறு, கொசத்தலையாறு, கூவமாறு, வடக்கே ஆரணியாறு போன்ற பல ஆறுகள் ஓடிய இடம் என்று தெரிவித்து ஓடிக்கொண்டிருக்கிறது. சென்னையை தொடர்ந்து உள்ள பொன்னேரி பகுதிகள் வளம் கொழிக்கும் பகுதிகளாக இன்றைக்கும் இருக்கின்றன. இத்தனை சிறிய ஆறுகள் ஓடும்போது இப்படி பெரிய வண்டல் மண் எங்கே இருந்து உருவானது என்கின்ற எண்ணம் ப்ரூஸ்ஃபுட்டுக்கு வந்தது. தற்போது இருக்கின்ற சென்னை வழியேதான் பழைய பாலாறு இருந்திருக்க வேண்டும். காவேரி பாக்கம் அருகே பிரிந்து வளைந்து இப்போது புலிக்காட்டு ஏரியின் தென் பகுதியிலே பழைய பாலாறு வந்து சேர்ந்திருக்க வேண்டும். இன்றைய கொசத்தலையாறு, குவமாறு, அடையாறு, ஆரணியாறு இவை எல்லாமே பழைய பாலாற்றின் கிளை நதிகள் தான். பின்பு பாதை மாறிய பாலாறு தற்பொழுது சதுரங்கப்பட்டினம் வரை கடலில் கலக்கிறது. சில ஆயிரம் ஆண்டுகளுக்கு முன்பு நிகழ்ந்திருக்க வேண்டும். இப்பொழுது பாலாறு கடலில் கலக்கும் இடத்திலே ஒரு டெல்டா என்பது உருவாகவில்லை என்பதை உணர்த்தினார்கள். தமிழகத்தை விட்டு போக மனமில்லாத ராபர்ட் ப்ரூஸ் ஃபுட் அவர்கள் ஏற்காடிலே தங்கிவிட்டார்கள். கல்கத்தா சென்றிருந்த பொழுது அங்கே ராபர்ட் ப்ரூஸ் ஃபுட் அவர்கள் இயற்கை எழுதினார்கள். அங்கே தகனம் செய்யப்பட்டு அவருடைய சாம்பல் ஏற்காடு கொண்டு வரப்பட்டு கல்லறை அன்றில் அமைக்கப்பட்டிருக்கிறது. உடல் மறைந்தது, ஆனால் அவர் செய்துவிட்டு சென்ற பணிகள் மறையவில்லை.
and I appoint my dear wife Eliza Melissa Foote, during her life and after her death, my trustees to be the guardian and guardians of my infant children. I give, excepting my collections of Indian prehistoric antiques, or the proceeds thereof, which shall form part of my general estate, and the articles hereinafter specifically bequeathed, all my plate, linen, china, glass, books, pictures, prints, wines, liquors, furniture, and other household effects, and all my carriages and horses.
தென்னில மக்கள் மட்டும் இல்லை, உலக மக்களுக்கே ராபர்ட் ப்ரூஸ் பற்றி தெரிஞ்சாதான் இந்த மக்கள் எப்படி உலகத்துடைய மேற்கையும் கிளர்ச்சியும் இணைத்தாங்க, இந்த மக்களுடைய தொல் பழங்கற்கால நாகரிகத்துடைய வாழ்வியல் திறன், அதன் வெளிப்பாடுகள் இன்னைக்கு கூட இவங்க ஒரு அறிவுசார் திறன் மக்களாக இருக்கக்கூடியதுக்கான பின்புலம் பார்க்குறப்ப ராபர்ட் ப்ரூஸ்ஃபுட் என்ற பேர் இந்த மக்களுடைய மனசுல என்னைக்குமே இருக்கு.
அவர் மேற்கொண்டு வெளியிட்ட மேப்ஸ், அதாவது ஜியோலாஜிக்கல் மேப்ஸ் என்கின்ற புவியியல் வரைபடங்கள் அடிப்படையிலே தான் பலவிதமான கண்டுபிடிப்புகளை நாங்கள் இன்றைக்கும் நிகழ்த்தி கொண்டிருக்கிறோம்.
அவருடைய ஆய்வு தளத்துல வருங்கால சமுதாயத்தை கொண்டு வந்தாதான் உலகத்தின் மிக முக்கியமான ஒரு நிகழ்வுகள் இந்த மண்ணில் நடந்திருக்கின்றதை நம்மளால புரிய வைக்க முடியும்.
அவர் போட்ட சாலையிலே நாங்கள் பயணித்துக் கொண்டிருக்கிறோம் வெற்றியை நோக்கி.
Padma, can you take the questions, please?
So we now have the question answer session. So whoever wants to ask any questions can now put forth their questions either through chat. You can type it in the chat, or yeah, so we can unmute you. Please raise your hand in the chat. Question answer. 10-15 minutes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. That was absolutely amazing. Covering all the uncharted terrain.
Very fascinating talk. I have a question, sir. How would how did he first understand that it is a prehistoric tool? What made the what made it click? I mean, it must have been an unexplored land, not so much development. How did he figure out all those trails?
Yeah, basically, I am not at all connected with archaeology. I'm basically fine art student, and I started my first documentary from Kudiyam case. So from that only I came to know about his Robert Bruce Foote's contribution, and I have interacted with a lot of archaeologists and geologists during those shooting in Kudiyam caves. So from there I started this documentary. I did a small research, and even I sent an email to his native place. From there I have got a lot of information, and here in our local I have interviewed the respective scholars, archaeologists and geologists. So that is how I started from Kudiyam caves.
Thank you, sir. That was a very informative documentary. We learned a lot. Sujata?
Thank you.
If there are there any other questions, Padma?
I haven't seen any questions in the chat here. So if anyone is interested, please raise your hands so we can unmute you. Or you can unmute yourself and ask the question.
Sujata, we request you to introduce Mr. Sridharan.
Yeah.
He has joined in today.
Yeah. We're very honored that Sri Sridharan, archaeologist who's worked for over 3 decades in the State Department of Archaeology in the Tamil Nadu government, is here with us to give his observations. Just a brief introduction of him. Actually his achievements are several and his bio is really long. I'll try to make it a little concise. He's been trained in conservation of cultural objects and antiquities at the National Research Laboratory for Conservation and of Cultural Property in Lucknow, UP. And he's done a course in epigraphy conducted by the State Department of Archaeology. He's conducted archaeological survey in Dharmapuri and Tanjavur districts of historical monuments, epigraphy, and archaeological sites. And he's been part of the archaeological excavations of historical sites in Korkai, Karur, Kanchipuram, Gaingaikonda Chorapuram, Kodumanal, Panayakulam, Marakanam, Andipatti, Modur, and Parikulam. He's also been part of the epigraphical survey in Dharmapuri, Trichy, and Kadalur districts, identified 3 early Chola temples and recommended them for preservation under the State Archaeological Department as historical monuments. He's participated in organizing archaeological site museums at Karur, Gangaikonda Chorapuram, and Rajaraja Museum in Tanjavur. He's again been part of organizing the organizing committee for masterpieces of early South Indian bronzes exhibition, which coincided with the Conference of Non-Aligned Summit held at New Delhi in 1983. He's co-authored several museum guidebooks, excavation reports, and epigraphy publications. He's written many articles in the magazine Kalvettu, published by the State Department of Archaeology. And he's written several other articles on temple and iconography in Tirukoil, a publication of the HRNC, and in other magazines. He's participated in the documentation of antiquities and ancient structures of the temples of Tiruvallur and Kanchipuram districts of the HRNC under the National Mission of Monuments and Antiquities Scheme. He's also been under the Registration of Antiquities Scheme, Antiquity and Art and Treasures Act of 1972, worked in Chennai, Tanjavur and Trichy districts, and registered temple bronzes and antiquities. That's several things that he's done over the last 3 decades, and we are extremely grateful and thankful that Sri Sridharan is here today to give his observations on the documentary made by Ramesh Yantra on Bruce Foote. Welcome, Mr. Sridharan.
Good evening, madam. I am very much thankful to INTACH chapter. It's a very interesting and emotional documentary prepared by Sri Ramesh Yantra. I have already seen this documentary, and I met him in the Tamil Heritage Trust meeting also. It's a very educative and informative documentary, because Robert Bruce Foote, he is the father of Indian prehistory, because he has surveyed the whole southern India and Madras presidency and up to the north only he has surveyed. His mortal remains are in Erkard in Salem district. So, and also basically I am a geologist, and I have converted into archaeologist. So I am interested in Robert Bruce Foote collections also. Because one person asked the question, how he has identified that it's a prehistoric tool. But actually, if you find the tool, it's in oval shape, in triangular shape with ups and downs. It's a working edge, it's called a working edge. And they have made the pebbles, they have broken the pebbles with a hammer, also like in stone, because in prehistoric age, the man is collecting the food and hunting the animals, and he stayed in the caves, natural caverns in the night. Like that only, the Buddham cave is also staying place. It's only for temporary stay. About 16 caves are there in the Alipur Hill. Mr. Yantra, Ramesh Yantra has covered that Buddham cave in another documentary also. There are 16 caves, natural caverns, and one cavern was excavated by the Archaeological Survey of India in 1962. That after Robert Bruce Foote, actually the Robert Bruce Foote and William King, they are surveyed Buddham cave and they find out the caverns. In 1932, again 1930, Kamade and Burkitt studies, and because so many places in and around the Pundi Reservoir near to Chennai in Tiruvallur district, so many sites, about more than 109 sites have so far been identified by all the scholars. In 1930, Kamade and Burkitt studied the Manjakaranai and river terrace, because as in the documentary itself it is mentioned that river terraces are formed because of Keystone age, because of ice age. So many terraces are formed. We find the stone tools in that terraces. And V.D. Krishnaswamy in 1938, and D.T. Patterson in 1939, Dr. K.V. Soundarajan, Archaeological Survey of India, 1966. He identified fourfold terraces system in the Kottalayar basin and a boulder conglomerate. If you go to the Buddham cave, you find a lot of pebbles are hanging from the top. It is geologically it is termed as boulder conglomerate stone. And also in 1976, A. Swami, Madras University Archaeological Department discovered a new site and identified the tools from Gudiyam cave. And Vidula Jaiswal in 1932 studied the technological aspects of tools collected in Gudiyam and Vadamudurai. Lastly, Dr. Shanti Papu of Sharma Center for Heritage Education, Chennai, he is having a museum with Solinganallur. He worked for more than 10 years and he has studied the Atharambakam area and he collected lots of information about the prehistoric man who lived there in the banks of the river Kotalayar. There we find that fossils and of a man, prehistoric man, and footprints of the water buffalo. Like that, she discovered so many things, and he has presented in his papers. And also in 2006, the State Department of Archaeology studied excavated curriculum, one of the sites very near to Pundi Reservoir. So there we find. I also participated in the excavation. We find it's a stone industry, that is an industrial place. So they are making stone tools there. So the man lived for there and he has made the tools for to kill the animals and take food. Actually, the Paleolithic age is only the food collecting. In Neolithic period, he invented agriculture and he producing stage. So this is the stage in the nomad people. They are collecting the food and searching for the food. So he is moving in that area, and because there's forest, still if you go to the Gudiyam cave, it is still forest area. Nobody cannot enter that area because these are forest now. It's very difficult to enter. So without the help of the local people, we could not enter that area. I don't know the present condition. I don't know. But anyway, during my service, I have visited so many times. It's very difficult to go there and very interesting cave and that natural cavern. And the Archaeological Survey of India excavated that site. So the curriculum is also in an important site, prehistoric site, about the telling about the prehistoric culture of the people. And also in 2015 and 16 and 17 and 18, the State Department of Archaeology excavated Patterai Perumbudur near Tiruvallur. It's a prehistoric site. We have when we are digging that site, we find a lot of middle Paleolithic stone tools, and over that microlithic, that is a Mesolithic, we call it as a Mesolithic tool, and over that Iron Age, and over that Sangam period and Roman antiquity, like that it's astonishing findings from that area. So the people continued from prehistoric age up to the second and first century AD. They have lived there. So we have the preparation of excavation report is going on. I am also part of that excavation, preparing the excavation report. So it's a very interesting place, that Pundi, because about more than still many sites to be excavated, to be studied, because the exploration, archaeological exploration and excavation is a difficult process. Everybody tell that we have found out like that, but Ramesh Yantra is very, because if you go, he goes there and collecting the information. It's very difficult to get the information now, but archaeological exploration also like that. Very difficult to go there in those periods in 19th century. It's very difficult to go there and collect the information and collect the tools, because it's also very generous. Robert Bruce Foote has donated everything to the museum. So It's a very, actually, you have to give very good position in the history of Tamil Nadu. So the State Department of Archaeology established a site museum at Pundi itself. If you go to the Pundi Reservoir, you can see that the prehistoric museum. So many prehistoric antiquities, potsherds, potteries, and we have collected so many things in and around Pundi Reservoir and also in Tamil Nadu. So many places, and we have collected and we have established that museum in 1985. It's useful for the students as well as the researchers and public. So we must know because as Shanti Paput tells, about 5 lakhs years old, the prehistoric man who lived there in the Pundi reservoir area in Kottalayar, Athrambakam, Madamadurai, Neyveli, so many places. All the places have been surveyed and excavated, and we find all the details are published by the Archaeological Survey of India because it gives a term Madras Stone Age culture, like that it is given that in the period. So it's a very interesting study about the prehistory of Tamil Nadu, as well as it is also paved the way for prehistoric study of India, and also the Robert Bruce history and a documentary gives a vivid picture of Robert Bruce collection as well as his studies over geology, anthropology, ethnology, like that, and his artifacts are being preserved in the Madras Museum. So everybody should visit that area. Like that, Adichanallur findings also are kept in a separate area. So everybody should visit, those who are interested in archaeology and history of that area. So we must visit Madras Museum and see the collections, and we must respect the Robert Bruce collection also, and we must not forget that his service to the history of Indian archaeology as well as his history. Thank you very much. But this Ramesh Chandra's contribution is very welcoming. That, and he also worked very hard. He has in fact contacted his grandson of Robert Bruce Foote. He has collected all information on the will and his death report also it is mentioned in the church in Yerkat. So he has worked very so he has collected all the information and presented in very interesting way. We must congratulate him, and he must have the other sites also in Adichanallur, like that. He has to prepare so many sites in Tamil Nadu. So congratulations, Mr. Ramesh Yantra, for future other projects work also. Thank you very much, madam. I am very much thankful to the INTACH for giving me this opportunity to sum up this session. Thank you very much, madam.
Thank you so much. So thanks very much to you, sir, for being here and to give your observations on Ramesh Yantra's film. We have to congratulate Mr. Ramesh Yantra for this wonderful documentary, aesthetically produced and amazing content, and bringing to fore the history and what Robert Bruce Foote has done for archaeology and geology in our country, and even to Chennaiites who may not know about the Pallavaram discovery, to bring it to all of us. We're extremely thankful to you. And I think if Robert Bruce Foote went across, uncharted terrain, so did you, following his footsteps. And it's quite an amazing journey, documenting all those, areas where he went and what he discovered. And I think what is very important and a lesson for all of us is that it was not just his discovery, but his amazing documentation. Yes, of course, he was a great artist, so his drawing skills were an added bonus to what he otherwise documented. So amazing drawings and with great details, as the artist in the film highlighted, both at Kanyakumari as well as in the hilly terrain. So documenting it and writing notes about it and detailed descriptions, these are what will stay for future generations to refer to and to be able to learn about that layer of history, which itself was several layers down into history. So we're extremely grateful to Mr. Ramesh Yantra for highlighting these aspects and bringing it to the fore. Thank you very much, and thanks to each of you for joining us. Good night.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you.